Hey everybody, what is going on? It is your boy Izlo33 welcoming you back to the Anarchy Analysis Prediction Series. We're going into the last sets of best of threes for this split, with the lower bracket the last chance for these four teams, as well as the two that are technically their follow-up matches, but we cannot touch said games. Instead, we've got the two best of threes this weekend happening on Saturday to predict, as well as going over last weekend's results, of which there's not much more needing to be said. If we combined both me and the bot's results, we would have had a perfect week, as both of us hit the 5 out of 6. I dropped the last game of the Mad vs G2 series, and the bot dropped the first series with Heretics and Vitality, which, in theory, looking at that, could have actually gone either way. After watching that one, that was pretty explosive. But these results have kept us at an equidistance from last week. One thing, though, that will not be equal is the amount of teams remaining after this weekend's action, as we head into our first best of 3. Let's get into our first best of 3, which has some stipulations on it. It is technically our matchup of the week. However, if SK advances into the next matchup, then I will be covering that big old brawl with, I believe, Vitality. If not, we're sticking to Heretics versus SK as our matchup of the week, and we'll be going over the intricacies of this matchup, because we haven't touched SK at all this split, and I'm surprised considering they were touted as a 7th-8th squad, and I thought maybe I'll have covered them by now. But this team, surprisingly, is doing very, very good. I mean, looking at them as a whole, you've got to look at how dominant that bot lane has been. Exakick and DOS, I mean, when we first saw DOS on Misfits, I didn't think he was that solid of a player, and they were playing him alongside Vander, I believe, at the time. They were going between the two of them, tossing and turning who had the sort of best luck or most capability of a player in that support role, and eventually Misfits chose Vander over DOS, sending him back to the ERLs, and he found fortune alongside Exakick here, as they managed to do very good in the LFL last year, and I'm surprised that it took a couple of them this long to form a solid bond in the LEC, because DOS, while I didn't think he was great in the LEC, as I've said, I still thought he was better than some of the other supports that were in the league at the time, and could have quite easily have stayed. As this sort of pass between the likes of Astralis or who was bad at the time, BDS, even though they've technically gotten better, and we will be talking about them soon. But this matchup is fun to me, because SK got swept out by Koi, whom have clearly been very dominant and are already into the best of 5s, whereas you've got this Heretics squad who were very close to being up again, being where Vitality are, shall we say, in this sort of second round of the lower bracket, I believe is what we're calling it. I don't know, I'm going to call it round 2, because you can't really call it anything else. As a whole, I can see this matchup being very one-sided in Heretics' favour. That's my personal thought. I think that how Heretics played against Vitality, they were very unlucky to lose. They kept it very close in the first game, and then just got blown out of it randomly last moments of the game. Kind of like how most of their games have gone this year, I feel, is they play very close and then lose it in the latter half of the game. But I think Heretics win 2-1. That is my prediction. Apologies for the yawn. But I think, and I've said I think quite a bit here, Heretics as a whole just have the more, not agency, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for leadership, I think, is the best way to describe it. They've got more experience. There we go, I found the word. You've got Yankos and Nevi. These solid players who you know are consistent and have won their league before and done it in some style. Yankos won the league last year in spring with G2. Ebby won the LJL many times over. Let's be honest, that team of DFM was just unbeatable for a long time, and I personally think Heretics should beat this very inexperienced SK. And the reason I say that is SK, I think, have failed to adapt to best of threes. Yes, they've had an extra week of practice, but I think it's hard to say patches favor Heretics, but it does. And that's kind of the important thing to note when you look at this team. And as a whole, I think we'll see possibly Ruby finding a bit more form that he lost during that matchup with Vitality, because Perks was pretty good, let's be honest. But my prediction obviously is Heretics winning this opening best of 3. Let's get it. It's our last matchup somehow this weekend that we're predicting. It is gonna be BDS taking on Astralis. I find it funny every time I say this matchup because this is not my first take. Let's be honest. BDS and Astralis, you wouldn't have thought would have been a playoff matchup. But oh boy, you are certainly getting it, that's for sure. I'm gonna be brutally honest. This matchup probably won't be the cleanest we'll get in playoffs. In fact, you definitely shouldn't think it's going to be a 2-0 quickie, that's for sure. Both teams are showing success, and I forget how these two faced off. When did they face off first time? They faced off. Is it a week 2 job? Is it a week 2? It is a week 2 job. BDS won this one, and I forget how the game realistically went, but let's just say this. I think that top lane has a lot more hype behind it now than it did then. Finn versus Adam, I think, is probably going to be the matchup we focus in on, because Finn, this group stage playoff thing, best of 3s, has just honestly popped off. I'm surprised at how well he's performing. He's getting back to that old rogue days where he was that young, new fresh blood in the league that's showing something funky fresh every matchup, and he is dominating his opponents. Adam, though, I think is a bit of a different fish in a sense that his picks are not meta friendly. He brought out the Garen last week to very minimal success, but he's willing to showcase a pick that works in solo queue somehow. I personally think we'll see a lot of focus from like the likes of Sheo and what's his name? Who is that jungle XL? Not Zertha anymore. 113, that's who it is. 113 will be pathing up there to get Finn or Adam unlocked to then influence the map, because mid lane Nuke is probably going to pick a melee carry pretty much either first or second game, Akali or Sylas. That's been his bread and butter this split. And his opponent in Deo, Control Mage, probably, though he has kind of gone towards that Silas a bit more. I think that there's going to be a battle for Silas quite heavily over this weekend, like including the SK game before this, and then definitely in the Mad and Vitality games. There's just going to be focus on this pick because it's very, very prevalent in the current meta with the fact that you steal away ults on very minimalistic cooldowns. As for how I think bot lane's going to go, I think this is another like showcase because it's basically 2 reject bots. Kobe and Jonghoon, okay, not so Jonghoon, but Kobe is definitely one of those ADCs who was very good and at the top of his game, but he went from up here on Misfits and bonk, bonk, bonk. He got taken down a lot of pegs because he went to NA and then came back. And yeah, he was consistent. He's always been consistent, and he was certainly still performing very consistently. But he's had a rough couple of years since his return, I feel. And he's just not had the same fair shake that other players had, which is a similar sort of story to Crowny and Labrov. Crowny was on SK, and he was playing well. Got picked up by Vitality. He came in to replace Comp, and we've seen where Comp is now. He's a current reigning LEC champ. Crowny, he's good, but you don't see it because teams forget that he is good. And that's kind of the sort of thing between these 2 bot laners. And then you put the supports next to him, both rookie of the split. I need to preface that Jonghoon was a rookie of the split. He was certainly one of the best performing support slash split. And then Labrov won it 2 seasons ago at least now. It's a good old brawl. I think this is going to be a very exciting game and a very scrappy one to say the least, because I think both teams will take it to that sort of place. And yes, before anyone says it, as I kind of made my prediction here, I'm predicting a 2-0 BDS. Yikes, I've got hopes here. I think that Astralis, while good, BDS will probably outclass them, unfortunately, but I think it'll be scrappy though, and scrappy is where BDS thrives. Regardless of that, yes, I've managed to stretch out 2 best of 3s over 5 minutes, talking and rambling about whatever in them. But yeah, there is 2 other games involving Mad and Vitality with the winners of these 2 best of 3s to still predict. They'll be going on Twitter as well as the bot. I should also state the bot's predictions have technically been locked in for these matches that aren't even predicted. And how I've done that is I've essentially just set it up to predict either Team A or Team B. Obviously Team A is Vitality and Mad, and Team B is whomever is the winner. Yeah, them predictions look spicy. They're definitely good. I think the bot's got some good predictions here. It's funny, but I'm gonna just say the least that I could definitely lose some places here. I know I can't lose a split. That's made me happy. But the bot could definitely do well here. And as such, I guess we ended off here on that sort of cliffhanger. Thank you very much for joining me and the return of the webcam looking at my ugly face. I know, I've got a trend. I used it in my review of the year. It's a completely different webcam to that one. That one's actually in my drawer. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. If you have enjoyed this, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new and if you want to. And from me and Ray Quasar, I'll see you guys next time.